Hello, this is Corey, and I did my minor league baseball project on the Rocky Mountain Vibes. So just kind of going over my model overview. We had a very small sample size for this. It was just one season. My data had 37 observations. So I couldn't run every variable in one model. So I broke it into three categories. Game information, which included day of the week, opponent, and then game type, day or night game. Weather, which had a bunch of weather data I got from Weather Underground. And then promotion, which was just all my promotion dummy variables. So starting with the game information model, two coefficients came back statistically significant. That was Monday and Wednesday. They're both negative, and Friday was the omitted variable. If we look at this chart, it makes sense. Monday and Wednesday are by far the lowest average attendance per day. Again, Friday is pretty high. It's the second highest. So that makes sense kind of why those two were statistically significant and negative. Next was weather. Three came back statistically significant. Temperature, which was negative, dew point, which was positive, and then light rain. I chose not really to look at light rain because there was only one observation for this dummy variable, and I didn't feel that was enough to really make a conclusion on something. Temperature we see here is negative and statistically significant. Kind of surprised me at first that it was negative, but then you realize it's the summer, so it's kind of always hot. 52 degrees is the lowest temperature it was, and only two temperatures were below 60. So we kind of see that people like this middle range of temperatures more than the super hot. That's why we see the negative relationship with attendance. And then dew point was positive. Both those were only positive at a 0.1 alpha. And moving on to promotions, we had free ticket giveaway was our omitted variable, and we had four coefficients come back positive and statistically significant. Those were fireworks, 50-cent hot dog day, $2 Tuesday, and theme night. If we look at fireworks, $2 Tuesday, and theme night, they all had super high average attendance for those. A little surprising that 50-cent hot dog day came back statistically significant. It wasn't really higher than free ticket giveaway by that much, and stuff like military appreciation did not come back statistically significant. It was only at a 0.1 alpha, but it still came back positive and statistically significant. Moving into some of the tests we did to determine like multiclinearity. In our first model for game information, there was no multiclinearity, but we did have some for the weather between humidity, dew point, and temperature. This shows the humidity and dew point. There's a pretty linear relationship between the two, and temperature also. And then in our promotions data, there was it between 50-cent hot dog, giveaway days, and kids day. And this made sense because in 4 cases, 4 games, those 3 all occurred on the same day. It shows the multiclinearity there. They happened on the same days most of the time. There were a couple observations where only 1 or 2 were there. But for the most part, so we went in and fixed this by omitting humidity and dew point, so temperature was left, and then omitted giveaway days and kids day and just had 50-cent hot dogs day. It made sense. It was the statistically significant one, even if the model had multiclinearity. Then moving on to autocorrelations, we ran the Bush-Gottfried test, and all the results came back failing to reject the null hypothesis of no autocorrelation. So we were good there and moved on into heteroscedasticity. Ran the Bush-Pagan test for each one, and again, it came back failing to reject the null hypothesis for all. I have these fitted values and versus square residual plots for all 3 of the models. We can see starting in the top right that for the game information one, the data pretty closely fits this line, and it's pretty equally split. For weather, it's more spread out, but still in terms of above and below the line, it's pretty equally distributed. And then finally, for the promotions one, that's a little weird because we're in these stacks for each promotion, but still it's somewhat equally distributed above and below the line. Then moving on to my conclusions, starting with game information. This is just a box plot of all of them. We see Friday, that's the omitted, and then we have Monday and Wednesday were the statistically significant ones, and we can see why they're far below Monday. The max attendance for Monday was only like 2,700, 2,600. Wednesday, it barely got above 3,000, whereas the minimum for Friday was above 3,000. So we see why those were statistically significant there. We also see a huge range for some, like Saturday. It's interesting to look at. We wonder if this was maybe like one of those rainy days where it was super low because most of their other observations were higher. And then our second model, the weather one, temperature was the only statistically significant one. Dew point was in the first one, but when we adjusted it, we removed dew point. And temperature actually got more statistically significant, became statistically significant at a 0.05 alpha rather than a 0.1. And I omitted temperature and put dew point back in, and dew point actually had no statistical significance there, whereas at 0.1 before. Then, like I said, light rain, it just only had one observation. I wasn't going to conclude that it was statistically significant with only one observation. And we see the negative relationship, and I talked about that, why I think that is the case, because you don't want it to be too hot. Nobody wants to go bake in the sun for 3 to 4 hours watching a baseball game. You'd rather have that mild temperature where it's really nice to be outside. Then finally, our promotion data, kind of just restating it, we reran the test, and hot dog day stayed significant at 0.1, but fireworks, $2 Tuesday, and theme night all became more statistically significant once we got rid of the multiclinarity problem between 50-cent hot dog day, kids, and giveaway. And I think that just shows that these three, and maybe four if you include 50-cent hot dogs in it's not as statistically significant, are your best promotions versus free ticket giveaways, where people want to come and kind of get the show. You get the $2 Tuesdays, more the discount. You get to go for cheap, eat well. It's not very expensive to get into the game. Fireworks and theme night, you kind of get the show with it. And that's something people want to go more than like a kids' day where they get to run the bases. Even the free tickets, because you can watch a Major League Baseball game on TV, but you want to go to this game for the atmosphere. Thank you for listening.